a lot of those people are decent people who, are just PO'd about the government, but they're being led into a situation that's going to get really ugly. When you get down to it, a lot of the people who joined the Nazi Party early on, I'm talking about really early on, didn't see the whole picture. A lot of them were disgruntled people who were out of work.
That's right.
And they were having a really tough time, and they thought their country was being brought down by, the Jews and this and that and the other, and the big capitalists. In fact, a lot of the early Nazis were leftists. They weren't communists. They hated the communists, right. But they were leftists and they were socialists. They really did want to see, things being brought into a more equitable situation.
Now that you mention that, and you're right, isn't it interesting that you could have like two lefty organizations that would wind up being crypto right?
Yeah. A lot of the popularity of the early Nazi Party was because they carefully sold themselves as an alternative to the socialist, the Social Democrats, and the communists. We're on the left, but we're a nationalist left. We're for Germany. We're not for Soviet Union. We're not going to drag all the corporations down. We want everybody to have a job. But if you look at their party planks, a lot of it was very, very left-wing.
Attractive.
But when they got into power, the real Nazi Party showed up. And they, I would not try to equate the Tea Party with the brown shirts. But there is probably going to be a development coming out of the Tea Party which will be similar to the brown shirts.
Let's call it light tan.
Yeah, and both of them are full of it. Both of them are fools, both groups.
But what you mentioned also is what unfortunately has happened to all the organizations, be them 9/11 truthers. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You come in for a certain cause, but there are people who bring in with them other agendas. And then that gets to seep into it. So as you were saying, there are people who might have been okay with the National Socialist planks in the beginning. And then you get in there and all of a sudden you're like caught in this like rapid, these rapids. And it's like, well, I'm not going along with the rest of this stuff, but you're already down the road, if you know what I mean.
Well, the thing was, what they didn't know that Hitler had already sold the movement out to the industrialists, to the financiers, to the movers and shakers. And what he did is he said, there's going to be a revolution, and you can buy into it, or you don't have to, but we're going to put down the communists, so back us, and in the end, he just sold himself to those guys. Well, and that's what he intended to do in the long run anyway, because he was not an idealist. He just wanted power. He didn't really care. I mean, and the Nazi state was a planned economy. It was it was totalitarian. It had many aspects of it that were a lot like the Soviet Union, especially with the police state. Show me your papers and step out of line. You go to a concentration camp. There was no difference there.
But with your two examples, remember that both the Bolshevik Revolution, according to Sutton and others, and what you just mentioned also, which has been recorded also, and that is, big revolution, but guess what? They're all tied into Western financiers and industrialists.
Exactly.
And both of them worked them and, got their blood money. And, of course, like you were saying, that Hitler already sold them out? Of course he did, because who else was going to fund the armaments that they needed to go ahead and wage war?
All this grassroots stuff is a crock.
There you go.
It's just like these patriot idiots who think they can come up with a grassroots movement. Where are you going to get the money, man?
My point is that, we've been listening in for 20 years. And they haven't done anything. Occupy Wall Street popped up in 2 months. What's the problem here? So anyway, I tell you what, you and I and the rest of us, a lot of us, long in the tooth. Yeah. I feel like we're sitting up on a hillside and just watching an everlasting carnival.
Yeah.
It's just a circus show, and it all is fun.
And it's one of those things where you sit there and go, man, those fools just never learn.
Beam me up, man.
They just keep doing the same thing.
Yep.
It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Well, we call it voting.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right.
I swear that's true. That's great.
How else can you put it? I mean, it's just the way it is.
You're exactly right, man. I quit voting. Last time I voted was 1992. Oh,
I mean, why don't they just run a dog? Give me Rin Tin Tin. I'll vote. I'll vote for Rin Tin Tin.
Yeah, what was it? I used to have a bumper sticker on my car back when I was much younger that said, "Bozo for president, what's another clown in the White House?"
Just somebody else in government housing.